Okay. Welcome, everyone. I call the April 1st, 2024 meeting of the Carver School Committee to order. If everyone can please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. It's great to see a room full of mostly smiling faces, soon to be all smiling faces. Thank you all for coming. It's great to have students and families here.
So just as always, just a reminder, this meeting is being held virtually as well in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Members of the public can access our school committee meeting tonight in person at Carver Town Hall in meeting room 1, live on Area 58 cable television, and also via Zoom. And we're happy to start tonight. We have a few recognitions that we'd like to start our evening with, and I just want to thank everybody for coming out this evening for our recognitions to really to honor some of our students and our athletes. So we're going to do a recognition of all of our winter sports all-stars. And look at the room. the room is pretty filled, and we can applaud for that. We can applaud for the room. And I think that some of our all-stars are missing this evening because most of our all-stars play another sport, and they may be still at practice or still at their games. There were some games today. So we realize it's hard to do a recognition at a school committee meeting in the evening because there's, most of these athletes play multiple sports seasons here in Carver. Being an all-star is such a tremendous accomplishment. And I talked about this a bit last time when we did the Winter All-Stars. Being an all-star is really about dedication to yourself, dedication to your team, being a good citizen. You just don't become an all-star, right? And everyone sitting in the audience, our students who are all-stars, know that. They didn't just show up and say, I'm going to be an all-star. Maybe they thought, that's what I want to be. Maybe that was their goal. Maybe that's what they were striving to be. Right? But that takes a lot of dedication, a lot of time in the gym or on the courts or in the weight room. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of persistence. Right? And the reason why the school committee and myself want to have you here this evening is to take that 2 minutes or 3 minutes that we're going to take this evening just to honor that. Honor your work, honor your commitment to yourselves, to your team, and to our community. And then beyond that, when you take that time, you take that energy, you take that effort, and you go above and beyond, then you represent the community of Carver well, you represent Carver Middle High School well. So a thank you and a recognition to all of our all-stars, all of our athletes for their tremendous efforts during the winter season. So we're going to call everybody up individually. We do have a certificate for everyone. We'll do it. There'll be a large group up here, so we'll see who gets to come up first and stand up in front of us the longest. So we'll ask people to come forward. We'll present you with your certificate, and then we'll just ask everybody to stand kind of in front of the school committee. Then the school committee will come forward, and we can do some group pictures, and then we'll go from there. So, and then we have a couple of recognitions after that, and obviously you all have a lot of things to do. You're certainly welcome to stay for the entire meeting, but usually people don't, and we fully understand that. Not to put pressure on our student ambassadors from the elementary school, but they always do a great job. It's a nice show to see. Though they're probably a little nervous because they're like, there's a lot of people here. So seeing these student ambassadors is always a great thing to take in as well. Okay, without further ado, we'll do our all-stars. And sound-wise, we don't have a great way to do this, so I'm just going to speak really loud. The next thing is names. For boys basketball, Joshua Grimes. And I'm going to say everything. I realize some people are not here, but I still want to say everybody's name who were Winter All-Stars. Again, for boys basketball, Tyler Lennox. And for boys basketball, Robbie Peterson. Girls basketball, I did see some of our girls basketball players here. Julia Grimes. So Josephine Helms. Jaden Sotomayor. And Sarah Stantz.
Right?
Sarah, look over here. I don't have to go, she's with the sound.
You have to stay because everybody go. We're going to do a big picture. Wrestling, Michael Bryant. Aaron Reed, wrestling. Jack Reed, wrestling. Elena Thomas, wrestling. And Colson Tully, wrestling. Track and field. Gymnastics. Jess Holden. Track and field now. Cam Lane. Sarah Baptiste. Chloe Christian. Corinne Clarity. Jane Colden. Luke Colden. Sarah Langtree. Luke Maloney. Callie Peterson. And Maya Sapova. Our winter sport all-stars. Coming up to some rows here, I'd like to get in a little bit. Call people in the back.
Yeah.
Just gotta get a little closer. Give her the end. Nice one.
No, you're good. You're totally fine. All right. Congratulations, guys. Yeah.
Or take one for the school and then stay in place so your parents can take pictures, okay? Wait.
All right, thank you, everybody. Congratulations, everybody.
Awesome.
So our second recognition this evening. Just give a second. Yeah. Our second recognition this evening is for Corinne Clarity. And she's being recognized as what's called a presidential scholar. So the U.S. Presidential Scholars Program was established in 1964 by executive order of the President to recognize and honor some of our nation's most distinguished graduating high school seniors. Each high school in Massachusetts is allowed allowed to nominate up to 2 students each year at the state level competition. Massachusetts then selects 20 students to move on to the national level. Then at the national level, approximately 160 students from across the country are named as U.S. Department of Education Presidential Scholars, one of the highest honors for high school seniors. Scholars are chosen based on their accomplishments in many areas: academics, leadership, and involvement in their school and community, and representing excellence across the board and the greatness of American youth. For us, we were very excited because we actually nominated 2 students, Corinne and Vera McGrail, and they were both selected as winners at the state level. So we actually recognized Vera last month. Corinne was unable to be with us last month because she was sick. So we want to recognize Corinne this evening as a presidential scholar, and we should actually be finding out soon. They said by the beginning of April, and today is the beginning of April, if either Vera or Corinne are actually selected at the national level as national winners. But we're excited to have them be 2 of the 20 students throughout the state of Massachusetts selected with this honor of being a presidential scholar. Corinne, congratulations to you. We do have a certificate for you that is actually from DESE, from the Department of Education, recognizing this accomplishment. And we'll hopefully in May, we'll be announcing that either Corinne or Vera are winners at the national level. So we did a picture. You want to do a picture? Do it. Yes, we did last week. We did do a picture.
One more.
Thank you. Sweet.
Standing. I know, right? Oh my goodness.
So our third recognition this evening is we want to take a moment to thank and recognize Colleen Zanuski. Colleen has decided not to run again for another term as a member of the school committee, so this will be her last school committee meeting as a member of the Carver School Committee. So Colleen, we want to thank you for your years of service to the community, to the school, to the committee itself. Certainly was a pleasure to work with you. You were always clear and consistent in wanting to support our students. And that's what we're looking for our school committee members to do. So Colleen, thank you for your time. We all greatly appreciate it. And we have a small token of appreciation. We have some flowers. And I know this is very exciting. You get to take your plaque home with you.
Thank you. I'll put it on my new desk. I promised Sophia I would not be emotional, so I'm not going to be emotional. Okay. I just want to say that this has been a very rewarding experience. From listening to the students report about their positive experiences at school, staff energetically explaining the most current curriculum plan, to learning how the town and the school system operates. I want to especially thank Emily Slavin for encouraging me to run, Courtney Tormey, Kelly Nemi, and my family for supporting me throughout my campaign and tenure. This position requires a lot of time and commitment. I just started a new job, which will require a lot of my energy and attention, and I know a little someone who will be happy to have me back on Monday nights. I want to take this opportunity to encourage people to get involved and see what they may be able to give back to our little town to make sure we continue to thrive as a community. It's been a pleasure working with Superintendent Neef, Finance Operator Ron Griffin, and my fellow school committee members. Thank you.
Hey, Carl. Thank you.
Sorry, Sophia.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
This is a very emotional position, so it's right in line with being a school committee member. I just want to say thank you so much for your dedication, for always being true, and for being here. We appreciate you, and you will be missed. But I'm sure we'll see you in the audience or
Right.
on Zoom.
I know who to call.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So next on our agenda, we have, we're going to have comments from the EAPC. It looks like we have Tom Pinto on Zoom.
I'm here.
Welcome, Tom.
Good evening, everyone. As always, amazing things Carver students are doing each time I come to these meetings. Also, thank you, Colleen, for your time to the committee. We've had some wonderful weather here with April vacation coming up shortly. Thank goodness March is gone. That's always, I believe, the toughest month for educators. The EAPC had great discussions with Scott and Ron a few weeks ago. And I do also appreciate the approach that we're going through with the budget and its difficulties. And I look forward to hearing updates tonight. That's all for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Thank you for joining us. So that brings us to, drum roll, to our student ambassadors from Carver Elementary School who are here to give us a report. Welcome. We're all so excited that you're here.
So we're happy to have Amelia Denon, Madison Bogart, and Kensley Kinnan. Give me a second to pull up the... Ooh, I don't have access to the slideshow. We knew we were gonna have some technology. We can never go a meeting without one technology good.
It's okay. It's April Fool's, right? That's okay.
There is no slideshow, just
I'm sure they worked really hard on it.
sent.
Let's see. Hey, there we go.
Hey.
Nice.
Good.
Welcome, everybody, and happy April Fool's Day. I'm Madison Bogart.
I'm Amelia Denon. I'm Kensley Kinnan. We are student ambassadors from Carver Elementary School, and we want to share some of the great activities happening at our school.
Literacy Month activities are fun. My sister Lexi and I had shirts that said The Christmas Saurus, which is a book by Tom Fletcher. Connor in first grade had a huge pigeon costume that was homemade and incredible.
I saw a student dressed like a superhero.
My mom works at the school in second grade and dressed like Junie B. Jones with a tutu, and she had a headband with a bow on it. She looks so funny.
In our class, Ryder's mom read the book What Do You Do with an Idea?
Scarlett's mom read that same book to our class.
Every grade had their own book read to them by a community member.
I loved the book.
I thought it was very creative.
I was absent, but I heard it was a great book. The art of storytelling was for students in kindergarten, first, and second grade.
Students were entertained as Big Ryan read stories using silly voices and puppets.
Kids got to read books, select a character, and make their own puppets to bring home.
Last year when I attended, I saw lots of kids with creative puppets.
We have a very safe school, and just like how we prepare to do fire drills, it's important for us to prepare for an intruder.
Not too long ago, staff came in to go over Alice Train with us. The little kids read the book, I'm Not Scared, I'm Prepared.
Older students looked at Google Slides in their classrooms and reviewed what Alice means and ways we can stay safe.
We're not scared, we're prepared.
Yes Day will start tomorrow. Yes Day is a day where the students can ask for anything they want. The teachers have to say yes.
Recess all day? The answer is yes.
Field trip to Dunkin' Donuts? The answer is yes.
Ice cream you can eat? The answer is yes.
Food together won't.
I wish.
The Energy Academy Assembly for grades 4 and 5 was sponsored by Eversource.
They taught us how to not waste electricity and about natural resources.
The two performers were very entertaining and great at acting. The audience loved it.
They were from the National Children's Theater.
Nice.
We were a part of the Finding Nemo performance. I was Professor Red, the teacher of the schoolfish.
I was Jude, the sassy pop star pelican.
I was a mermaid.
There were more than 100 students in grades 4 and 5 that participated in Finding Nemo. Miss Crimp was our amazing director.
It was a great experience for our last year in elementary school.
At the end, as characters took baths, each group was assigned their own song.
The story is about one dedicated father who really loves his kid.
The audience was very entertained by our performance.
We loved the shark song. Though we have long sharp teeth, we're nice sharks underneath. We know that fish are friends, not food.
The Cybersons Assembly was for grades 4 and 5, and they talked about cyberbullying and how to stay safe online.
They showed us mistakes that people had made in the past and how to not do those. There was an example of a guy who told his boss he couldn't come to work the next day because of a family emergency. But a picture ended up being posted online of him in a fairy costume at a Halloween party.
The boss ended up seeing the picture and he was caught lying and fired on the spot. Another lesson is that people you talk to online may not be who they say they are.
We all use the internet and we want to stay safe online. Family Game Night is a night for families to enjoy games and win prizes.
Secretly, the games do help with math and reading, but kids don't know.
I entered a raffle for almost every single thing. I won a prize. My sister also won 2 things, Rainbow Lumen lollipops.
The all-school assembly included a lot of things. Students presented projects for Black History Month.
Academic awards were given out to a few students, and the chorus performed a couple of Finding Nemo songs. Each class designed a guitar from the book Change Sings, which is our school book.
The guitars included ways that students can change the community to make it a better place.
At the assembly, the staff and faculty members of the month were announced. Also, there was a big cup stacking competition between the teachers and students.
The students won.
It was a thrilling experience.
Maybe next time, teachers.
Thank you for listening.
Happy April Fool's Day,
Have a great evening.
and remember,
Above all,
Be kind.
Right on point. Thank you so much for sharing what's happening at the elementary school with us. We love it when our Carver Elementary School ambassadors come visit us, so thank you all so much for being here. It sounds like you had a lot of fun things going on, so we always love to see you. Oh, goodness, okay, so next we have comments from Captain's Council. I'm not sure, we
Yeah,
have,
I do. I think we
some
have.
members here, right?
Corinne Clardy, Julia Grimes, and Sarah Baptiste.
okay, great. Welcome.
Well, we have Julia Grimes and Corinne Clardy.
Okay.
Oh, and Sarah. That's Sarah. Since Sarah's here.
Oh, that's so nice of you. Thank you. Welcome.
I live in Spring Park, Girls Team. I'm Julia Grimes.
I'm Sarah Baptiste.
I'm Frank Lori. And we are here to talk about the spring sports that are coming up. The track season has started out strong with a lot of participation from all grade levels and talent across all events. Our meet for this week has been rescheduled to an undetermined date, but our first home meet is next Tuesday against Scholastic.
Softball is also going good, and the girls have high hopes for the season. They lost their first scrimmage 5-2 against Pembroke, but they have 3 games this week that they're feeling strong about.
I think they won their game today. Or they were winning their game today. They were up 7-2 in the 6th inning or something. So hopefully they won. Hopefully they finished it off.
Hopefully.
Baseball had their first official game tonight, and sadly we lost 8-0, but they haven't lost hope, and they're looking forward to their other 2 games this week and the rest of the season.
Nice.
Tennis has also been off to a great start, and they have their first match this Wednesday against Cohasset.
Excellent.
All right. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
for
much.
being
Thanks
here. Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to the comments from the general public portion of our meeting. If there's anyone here in the room who would like to speak, you're welcome to come up to the table, have a seat, just announce your name. And if there's anyone that is tuning in on Zoom that would like to be recognized to speak, if you could please just type your name in the chat so you can be recognized.
I do not see anything in the chat.
Okay, so no movement to the microphone and no names in chat, so we shall move on to our next agenda item.
Yeah, at this point, I'd like to make a recommendation to the committee that we do have representatives from the custodial unit here this evening. So I'd make a recommendation that we move up item A under recommendations from the superintendent, which is the memorandum of agreement with the custodial unit, and address that issue, and then, certainly go forward from there. So I'd like to invite up Scott Tavara and Christine Amaral. They are here, or they were here.
I think they're on the hallway. Right?
They're on the hallway. We'll invite them in. As long as the committee's okay with moving up that item.
Yes, absolutely.
So you got
Oh,
here.
come on in.
Did we lose him? Oh, okay. Well, while we wait for Scott and Christine to come up, I don't know, do you want to do approval of minutes?
I know that. Sure, okay, so if someone would like to make a motion to approve the March 4th, 2024 open session minutes.
I move to approve the March 4th, 2024 open session minutes.
A second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. It is unanimous.
And I'll find going to communications, if that's
Okay.
okay.
Sure.
So we do have a couple of communications that we're excited about. So first, well, I guess I'll start with one we're excited about, which is C.
Okay.
So we found out on Friday afternoon, the governor reached out to us, and Governor Maura Healey will be visiting Carver Middle High School on Wednesday, April 3rd. So she's coming to make an announcement about innovation pathways across the state. But Carver has kind of been a leader in innovation pathways with our MET pathway and our environmental agricultural science pathway. So we've often been recognized by DESE as kind of an exemplar in terms of the implementation of pathways. We've had several school districts come and visit us and talk to us about what we're doing in pathways. And so Governor Healey said, I want to select a school district that's been actively involved in pathways to make my announcement, and Carver was selected. So more details to come, but we're excited to announce that Governor Healey will be here from approximately 12 to 1 on Wednesday. He's going to take a tour of some of the pathway spaces. Then there'll be a formal announcement in the auditorium. We have a group of students who will be coming down for the announcement. Certainly the entire school committee is invited to attend. So hopefully people are going to be able to make it if they can. And we're just excited about having this opportunity to recognize all the great work that's being done by our teachers and our administration and our students in our two pathways programs. So just wanted to let the community know that visit will be happening.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. Very exciting.
And then our other two communications are just more, one was more procedural, reads on a regular basis, gives us their quarterly report. So it's in your background for you to review. I'm not going to pull it up. I just wanted to let you know it was there. So, once every 4 times a year, they send us kind of an update of what's happening at Reads Collaborative. The other one I wanted to mention to you is this inflation calculation. And it's something we've been talking about. And it's actually a unique effort that's happening between the American Federation of Teachers, the Mass Mass Association of School Committees, the Mass Associations of School Superintendents, and the MTA. So all those groups are kind of coming together and have developed like a very short position paper on Chapter 70 funding. In essence, what it states is that the state has not appropriately accounted for the inflation that's occurred over the last several years since the pandemic. And they haven't adjusted the Chapter 70 formula to address the inflation. And they're saying that in essence, most school districts are financially behind because inflation went at a rate of, it's in this 8% was the average over 3 years. And DESE has a cap of how much they can increase Chapter 70 at 4.5%. And they're saying that year-over-year inflation has been much higher. So ultimately the argument is that Chapter 70 funding, state funding for education, is not keeping up with the expenses schools are facing based on inflation. So I just wanted the committee to be aware that this position paper has been put together. It's being sent to legislators throughout the state. It's being sent to the governor. I won't present it to her on Wednesday when she comes. And, in essence, that, we're making this concerted effort as these groups, the MTA, the ATF, MASC, MASS, to say the state has to do something with this. They have to look at this Chapter 70 formula to better fund education at the state level. So I wanted to make you aware of that document and let you know it's being sent to all of our local representatives and that's happening across the state.
Right, which is just, I'm so thankful to see everyone coming together to push this issue forward. I do have a rather long file from MASC with some additional documents and background that I'm going to send to everyone. And I have heard that there's also a resolution floating around. So once I have my hands on that, I will forward it to everyone as well to see if we want to consider it in our next meeting. So thank you, Scott, for bringing that up.
So now I think we're ready if the committee's okay to make the move. So I'd like to invite up Scott Tavera and Christine Amaral from the custodial unit.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Welcome.
Right, have a seat.
So we were very happy to work collaboratively with the custodial union to come to this agreement that I'm going to do a quick review of this evening. Certainly the recommendation from Ron and I is that the school committee ratify that agreement this evening. The union has already ratified the agreement, and if the school committee does so, I have some documents here for Stephanie and for Scott to sign, so we can sign the agreement.
Great.
So I just want to hit some of the key points that's covered in the MOA. Most importantly, we restructured the salary grid to drop the first 3 steps and add an additional 3 steps for custodians. The total dollar increase over the life of the contract is about $3.23 per hour. So that's the increase that custodians will receive over that 3-year period. We've also formalized a split shift rate for those employees who are working split shifts, because we have some employees who, because custodians get a differential for working evening or overnight. And we have a couple of custodians who currently work split shift that's part day shift, part evening shift. But really, the language in here accompanies any split shift that could even be, evening or overnight, of how those employees will be paid. We added that if June 19th lands on a Saturday, staff will be able to take a holiday on another day in which school is not in session. So if it falls on a Saturday and we're in session on that Friday, they can't take the Friday as a holiday because school's in session, but they'll be able to have a holiday that in essence almost like a floating holiday they could use at additional time. So that's a change in the contract. Another big change that we made is the staff is going to be able to accrue 1 vacation day a month to a maximum of 10 days in their first year of employment. Currently in the custodial contract, they're not allowed to earn vacation time until after 1 full year of employment. And we felt like that was an adjustment that we needed to make that shift to give people the opportunity to earn vacation time right away. And then the last major change is we added a 90-day probationary period for all new hires. So we'd be able to make an analysis after those first 3 months whether to retain an employee or not. So those are the key changes in the agreement. I would certainly take a motion to approve the MOA, and that is the recommendation of the administration.
Okay. I move that we ratify the memorandum of understanding reached between the Custodial Negotiations Subcommittee as presented with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO, State Council Number 93, and Local 1700.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So, Scott and Christina,
Thank
I don't know if you have any thoughts? No, you don't have to have any thoughts. I'm going to give you the opportunity.
No, thank you, Superintendent. At this time, on behalf of the union, obviously, I would like to thank the superintendent, the finance office, and everyone on the school committee for some collective bargaining and that I think was fair to both sides. And we do appreciate what was offered to the custodians, obviously, and we are very thankful that we came to an agreement and we reached a successful bargaining agreement with the school committee. And again, we look forward to working with you in the future as well, and we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have two copies of the agreement, Stephanie and
all
Scott,
right.
if you want to sign, and Scott can keep one, and Stephanie can keep one.
Absolutely. Whole year.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a lot of signing. It's great.
Oh, yeah, we didn't really do live signing last time, did we?
Thank you for all that you do, we appreciate it. Thank you for working.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I really want to applaud, actually. I don't know.
Right?
That was like the easiest. That was a good, like, getting my feet wet with negotiations.
Progress is great. Okay, so now we will go back to, let's see, reports from the superintendent? Right?
Yes,
you
so
covered everything.
for personnel
Personnel
updates. So since our last meeting, we've had a couple new hires. Paula Murphy is a long-term sub-English teacher at the middle high school. And Janine Chaberdeau is a long-term sub-reading teacher at the elementary school. We've had one resignation. Jennifer Mitchell is a kindergarten teacher at the elementary school. Ms. Mitchell announced her retirement effective June 30th, 2024.
Thank you. Then next we have updates on MCAS action plan. Dr. Erickson, I assume.
Do we have an update from the student
Oh,
advisory
sorry.
council?
Did I skip right over?
Yep.
Oh, I apologize. I skipped right over that. I went to blue. I know, I'm so very sorry.
Small.
Thank you for highlighting that for me, Ron. It was it was great. So sorry about that, Corinne. Whoops.
Hi everyone. I hope you had a great Easter weekend with your friends, family, and all those you care about. It's hard to believe that April is here already. There is less than 3 months left of the school year, thankfully. I'm going to start off with a recap of some exciting things that happened in March, and then I'll get into some upcoming events. So at the end of February and into the beginning of March, students were invited to a special breakfast for their achievement in honor roll and high honors for the first 3 terms. There were a ton of students who attended, and it was great to see how many people are dedicated to their academics. On March 8th, the seniors had their annual senior night, which was formerly known as senior lock-in, and everyone had a ton of fun playing games in the Mont Casino and riding around skateboards in the hallways. Seniors in the biotech pathway also got to go on a field trip this past month to the GRO Biosciences facility in Cambridge, where they got to speak with experts in the pharmaceutical field and even get some hands-on experience in the lab. Night on Broadway was also this past weekend with performances from students across grade levels. There was so much talent to be heard, and the cast had such a great time singing songs from all of their favorite musicals. Towards the beginning of March, the Student Council went on their annual MASC field trip, where they participated in a bunch of fun activities like the Polar Plunge, as well as specialized workshops to help develop their leadership skills. Our council won 2 awards at the conference, the Gold Council of Excellence and the Top 10 Awards. These awards are beyond deserved, especially after how much of a success Winter CMAS was. Moving on to upcoming events, the Student Council will also be attending the Spring CMAS Conference this Friday, where they'll get to meet even more people and generate ideas on how to further improve our school. Next Friday, Captain's Council is running our Bean 11 event for the 7th graders. Students will be participating in a variety of activities, including Hungry Hippo, as well as being taught about the importance of teamwork and how rewarding it is to participate in sports at a high school level. Also next week, some juniors and seniors will be embarking on a trip overseas to Dublin and London. They'll be learning how to bake bread, Irish step dance, and herd sheep, as well as visiting historic landmarks like Big Ben and Anne Hathaway, Shakespeare's wife, not the actress's cottage. Lastly, I just want to thank Colleen for her dedication to the school committee over the past few years. Myself and the other members of the Student Advisory Council got to work with her this year, and she was always so attentive and receptive to what we had to say. So we will all miss you.
Thank you, Corinne. Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you, Corinne. Okay, so now that brings us to updates on MCAS action plan from Dr. Erickson.
That's hard to go after you. You did such a nice job. All right, so I will be brief. I just wanted to provide the committee some progress notes, not only on our MCAS action plan, but also our middle of the year data. So the intention of this evening is to give you a quick update on our math and literacy adoptions, to spotlight some middle of the year data, and then to highlight some advances since the last time I presented on the MCAS action plan, and then outline some long-term plans.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah. So at one point, sorry. Thank you.
Let's get it all together on the Zoom.
Yeah, we're great. So at one point, maybe last month, I presented about illustrative math, which is the new middle school math program. So we've been continuing implementation of that, and the middle high school did not do middle of the year NWEA assessment. So other than anecdotal information from teachers, we don't have like a solid data set to talk about how this is impacting our math score so far. So we'll have to wait till the end of the year, but then I'll report back and be able to talk about measuring that implementation. And then at the elementary school, we've done a year-long professional development with our 3rd through 5th grade teachers on a book called Building Thinking Classrooms. And the intention of that is to really build off of the research that a lot of math programs in our country and in North America don't necessarily foster the critical thinking skills that are needed in the future of work and needed to really conceptualize math. So the idea is to decrease to a degree the amount of teacher talk and increase the amount of student talk so that they can work together and explain their thinking while the teacher is able to listen to that and provide feedback so that students have the opportunity for more learner-centered and student-owned mathematical thinking. So in addition to that book study, I know that Erin Young has also been working on building thinking classrooms with the high school, and there's actually a great book club that has been run in conjunction between an elementary school teacher, Morgan Brown, and Erin Young, the middle high school department chair. So it's been a great opportunity kind of district-wide to be able to do that. In terms of literacy, we are continuing with our 2nd year of units of study adoption. So it's our 1st year in grades 4 and 5 and our 2nd year in kindergarten through 3rd grade, including reading and units of study phonics in K through 2. And then this is also the 1st year that we're officially doing the early literacy screener, even though it's using a tool that we have used in the past, the NWEA reading fluency screener. But this year, we're following the regulation, which went into effect on July 1st. I'll give you some data about that in just a minute. Additionally, I believe I mentioned maybe the middle of the year that we've brought back benchmark writing. So in grades 3 through 5, 3 times during the year, there's been a common prompt for all 3rd graders, for all 4th graders, and all 5th graders, and then teachers get together and score those and then use that data to help support instruction and to tailor where writing needs to improve. And then twice in 2nd grade and 1 time in 6th through 8th grade. So what does all this mean? So looking at the data, again, I don't have any data for the middle high school, but for the elementary, each one of the dots on this grid, is going to represent a grade level looking at school-wide data. I know it's not a big picture, but you can see these little green dots on the graph. And there's one in the middle that has an S on it, and that represents kind of the school average. So when you look at this quadrant system right here, everything north of the blue line, so the top half of the grid, is going to represent above average achievement, and then everything to the right is going to represent in the right half above average growth. So the idea is you want to be in the northeast corner there. And Scott's showing everybody what that looks like. So in math, that's great. We have higher achievement and higher growth, which is great. And again, you can have any combination of that. So you can have a situation where a student might have high growth but low achievement, meaning that they started way behind grade level and they've made a lot of growth, but they're still just not there yet. Or you can have a situation where a student starts really high but isn't challenged. And so you might have high achievement but low growth. So the sweet spot where you're really seeing like a lot of effectiveness in terms of the instruction that's going on is high growth and high achievement. So yay, that's wonderful. And then, so that's math. And then I also just wanted to share the difference between last year's math and this year's math. Again, each dot is going to represent a grade level, but you'll notice that they've shifted up. So they're tracking northeast, which is a good thing, showing growth between the 2 years. And then looking at literacy, thank you. You'll see that, again, with the exception of that one little yellow dot that is, again, over the line in terms of achievement, but is getting towards growth, that everybody is in that top quadrant, which is great. We did not expect to see that so soon with the adoption, so that's wonderful. And then, again, looking from year to year, you'll see where we were tracking last year compared to where we're tracking this year. So overall, we would say that that's significant growth.
Absolutely.
So now I'm going to get a little bit into the early literacy screener. So we use state-approved assessments, but with kindergarten, we do not use the NWEA assessment, in part because we feel like it's important to listen and hear the students. It's their first experience in school, and we feel like putting them on a computerized assessment may have variable results, so we just made a conscientious decision to go through and to do something different. So we're using DIBELS 8, which is more time-intensive in terms of the adults involved. I just want to give a quick shout out to Naomi Stahl, who may not be here right now, but she was super helpful in this, and then Kate Moore and the reading team in supporting this. And so going through the DIBELS experience, we look for any student that is flagged, meaning that they might need some intensive support. So in the fall, when we did the assessment in November, we had 12 kindergartners that needed more intensive support, and in the winter we had 9 students. And then of the 9 students in the winter, I'm going to say this backwards. Of the 12 students in the fall, 7 of them were no longer flagged. So that means that we picked up 4 new students, but we lost 7. If I'm saying that properly. I think the way I'm saying it is confusing, but hopefully you've kept up. Good. Okay. All right. And then in first grade, we get into the NWEA early screener. And this graph is wildly confusing. Can you bounce back just one, if that's okay? Okay, so everything here equals 100, and I apologize for my explanation. Scott will help me if I really mess this up. So you see 2 different colored bands in each column. There's an aqua colored band and like a navy or cadet blue. The idea is we get to the point where most of the column is aqua, because the aqua is going to represent the students that are reading. So they've moved past the foundational skills of phonological awareness and phonemic awareness and learning how to read to actually reading. It's very common to see that you're going to have a smaller aqua band in first grade than you will in, say, third grade, because the idea is we want all students reading by third grade. But the piece that I want to point out here that's fascinating is that first grade in 2021 and 2022, you can see the limited amount of growth. And then that kind of middle section was our first year of adopting units of study. And now we're into our second year of adopting. So you'll notice that the impact is significant in terms of students that are reading by the middle of the year in first grade. On the next slide, you'll see with second grade that we also have growth. And you'll notice that last year was the first year we were implementing those two programs. So we were kind of on par with the year before, but then you'll see winter of this year that we have a lot more students that are in that aqua band. And then in third grade, you'll notice that there's less variation with that. And we feel like that's in part because these are the third graders that missed half a year of kindergarten. If you remember when we talked about unfinished learning, we were concerned about the fact that they missed about half of the standards and then how hard it was to catch up. So we're noticing that cohort. And again, last year I was talking about them as second graders. This year I'm talking about them as third graders, but that's consistent kind of nationwide. So it's not just Carver. The other thing that this graph doesn't show is of the students that are reading, one of the indicators that we look at is oral fluency. So the words correct per minute when a student reads. And there are different benchmarks or cut points that you can use for that. So DIBELS is widely accepted, but we actually have a more rigorous benchmark that we use based on a study done in 2017 by Hasbrock and Tyndall. And just to let you know, like first grade, during the winter, of the students that were reading, they needed to be able to read 29 words per minute correctly. And on average, our students are reading 69 words per minute correctly of the students that are reading. So we thought that was great. And then we're right in terms of the median words per minute. We're right on average with second grade. And then in third grade, they should be reading, again, with this harder standard, 97 correct words per minute, and our average is 103. So that's another metric that we look at when we're trying to determine the impact of this. So moving along to the action plan. Since we last met, just some updates. The middle high school continues to be tenacious about tracking data when it comes to tardies and absences and working with families to try to support bringing students to school, back to school, staying in school, all of the above. So both Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Antel work to present that to the faculty every month at the faculty meeting. And they have noticed between last year and this year that they are tracking a significant decline in tardies and in absences. So that means more students in school, which makes everybody happy. And then at the elementary school, they have been sending letters home to families that are missing a lot of school. And it's a little trickier there. One of the things that they've been talking about is they really want to be amicable and create welcoming relationships with parents, and at the same time holding them to the expectation that when you're in school, that's the best chance for success, because when you miss school, you miss out. And so we're going to continue to track that as the year continues, but I wanted to give you that update. Additionally, we started MCAS last week in 10th grade at the middle high school, and that was a very positive experience. In addition to getting ready for the MCAS behind the scenes, teachers have been working with students about 1 to 2 times per week to just pick a question here and there and work as a class together, or give it as homework and then come back and talk about how to kind of decode what is being asked for in the question, and then tactics to be able to answer that. That way, the actual format of the test is less enigmatic and it makes more sense to students. And then lastly, in terms of communication, Mrs. Cabral has gone through and had student assemblies with 10th graders prior to testing, and work with the food service program around breakfast. So we felt like that definitely contributed to a very positive start to the MCAS season. And then in terms of long-term plans, Next year, in grades 3 through 5, we will be adopting a Bridges update. And then we're going to hold off on kindergarten and second grade until the following year because next year will be our third and final phase of units of study adoption where we're focusing on writing, finally, which is great. And it's not that we haven't been writing throughout, but this will give us a nice opportunity for differentiated support for students in a writer's workshop model. So we're excited about that opportunity as well, and I'd love to entertain any questions you have.
Excellent. That was a lot of information.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Oh.
Okay, so.
Sorry.
Okay, Siri.
My watch.
She doesn't have any questions for us.
Doesn't know the answer.
Right? No, it was wonderful. Thank you so much for giving that update. I know there's a lot of good work being done. I know the teachers and the staff are working really hard and the students are working really hard. So thank you for that update. I think it's important that the community knows that, Carver's focusing on getting the kids to where they need to be, and that unfinished learning, I think, is getting less and less, which is a great thing to see, but it's due to all of the efforts. So thank you to everyone that's involved in bringing our students forward. Anyone have any questions?
I was just curious why the middle schoolers weren't participating in the NWE.
I can't answer that directly. I think Mrs. Cabral could, and I don't know. Sorry, she is here. But I think one of the things may be that we did benchmark writing this year, and we brought back midterms. And I think the combination of both of those things we felt, is that correct?
Just since a lot of testing.
Yeah.
Just to reduce that, we'll still have the beginning and the end and see the growth, but just eliminate that fixing in the middle.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I was trying to make sure I remembered it properly.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
Yeah, the return to midterms was whoo. We all had midterms.
I know.
Right? We all had finals. But getting back to a little bit more normalcy there as well. But anyone else have any questions? Thank you very much, Dr. Erickson. I always appreciate the updates and the data. Okay, so let's see if I can get where we are on the agenda correct this time. Right, the FY25 budget update.
Yes.
Please and thank you. Ron, in advance.
Hi, everyone. It's been a while since we've kind of gone through our budget, and we've had some changes, especially in the revenue projections. So it's rare, but I'm here to give you some good news, which I'm happy to do. What I thought I'd do today, though, is we'll spend a little bit of time just refreshing, because it's been a while since we've kind of dug through it, and the information's a little bit on the dense side. So we'll dig through it with some definitions there. We'll talk about expenses, talk about revenue, as we always do, and they'll sort of end, as we typically do, with like the strategy to balance out the budget and what we'll do for next steps.
Great.
So your first couple of slides are, again, things you've seen before. Whenever we talk about money, we're really talking about people, the big people who ultimately teach little people, and so our focus is our educational blueprint, as well as emphasizing, the development of the pathways. And as Superintendent Neef mentioned, I think Carver's made a lot of great strides with that and become a leader across the Commonwealth in that regard. The next two slides are really just summary, things we've talked about before. On the right, you see a graphic that just sorts out your budget the way that DESE requires us to account for all of the money. Big picture, high level at your operating expenses, you're going to be just shy of $26.5 million. That's about a 7.7% increase on 24, which is really substantial. The flag here for you to keep in the back of your mind is you got to get those expenses down to something like 7% in order to have a balanced budget. And we'll talk more about that one, but that's the big takeaway from that particular slide. You've heard this theme before. The primary driver of your expense increase this year in 24 and going to next year in 25 is predominantly special education, kiddos with disabilities. The story remains the same. We've got a handful of students that require some really significant services. Those services can't be provided here in Carver. They're provided in specialized placements. The more significant the need, the more specialized the placement, the more significant the cost. That's also paired with the transportation to get those kiddos to and from here to their location. Changing gears from expenses to revenue. Again, this is just a summary of stuff you've seen before already. I want to take a moment because the update today is predominantly about revenue. So I apologize that this is old information, but just as a reminder around how the revenue is constructed for your school department. There's really like 3 buckets of revenue for the school department, true in Carver and true of just about every other district in the Commonwealth, frankly. On the right-hand side is just the graphic of this. So that first big part of the bar in any fiscal year, 23, 24, 25, that's the large majority of your budget. And that's comprised of like your local money and state money. The local money are things like taxes and local receipts, as well as things like pilots and new growth. And the state money is predominantly Chapter 70, which we talk about quite a bit. That next bar that's sort of brown at the top there, those are annual revenues that we can expect to get every single year. The school department does a great job writing a ton of grants to support education here in Carver, about $1.7 million all in. And that last little bar at the top there is about $400,000 in one-time funding. Big picture, that's really a practice we want to get away from. One-time funding is non-recurring funding. It's sort of, plugging the hole in a budget. You have to do it sometimes, but it's really not sustainable. So big picture again from the revenue, the large majority of revenue comes from your local and Chapter 70. We want to start getting away from the one-time funding to put it all together. You've seen this slide before too. This is a bit of an advocacy slide more than anything else, but just a reminder that Chapter 70 really hasn't grown with school expenses. Again, not just here in Carver, but in about 2/3 of all communities in the Commonwealth, they're receiving less than 3%. Carver, part of about 20% of districts in the Commonwealth, receiving less than 1% increase in Chapter 70, which is a real challenge, which is why Superintendent Neef again shared with you some of the advocacy that a lot of the associations around the state, both in terms of labor and management, sort of coming together to advocate for finding a way to support greater growth in Chapter 70, right? Okay, that was the summary. We're going to turn our gaze to the updates. I want to apologize in advance. This is dense stuff. So at any point, stop me. But I think it's important because we all come to this conversation with different levels of understanding of the detail of how the budget is made, how municipal revenue exists. So this is like my Cliff Notes TED Talk on municipal revenue, but stop me at any point, right? Okay, so what you see on the right is all of your revenue for the town of Carver. This is their latest projection. It's not official, it's not final, but this is the latest projection, how money gets allocated to all the services that your community needs, right? That first bucket that you see that I'm highlighting on the top, those are those big 3 for you. That's your local and state aid. The levy means your taxes. Net state aid is predominantly Chapter 70. There's some other stuff in there, but for simplicity's sake, it's mostly Chapter 70. And then you've got local receipts. The update that's interesting here is that the governor's budget, since last time we talked, was actually less than our projection, which makes sense. We've seen the 9C cuts now. It's been like 8 or 9 months in a row where the state's receivables have been below projection. Like the state's just not bringing in as much money as they thought they were going to, right? The benefit, the positive on that though, is the initial projections for your local receipts were lower than we expect them. So we're actually going to see more money in local receipts, which is great. The driver for that is predominantly interest. So interest rates are up. Any money that the town has in the bank makes more interest. That's good for your town. Yeah, that's the takeaway there. This next bucket in the middle is shared costs. So what the town does, they take all the money that they've got and they back out these shared costs. Costs that we all have to incur just to operate any community in the Commonwealth. You take out all the shared costs and at the end, you have what's left to provide all the services, right? To pay the teachers and pay the firefighters and pay the policemen in the library and so on. Where there's changes in shared costs really can impact how much money there's left to use for a budget, right? So if a shared cost goes up, it means there's less revenue to use for your budget. 2 of them that are important to keep in the back of your mind is health insurance and overlay. So your health insurance was originally set at 7.5% in the budget last time we talked in February. Right now, it's up to about 12.5%. That's not final, but we've seen in the past year now, Carver's incurred a number of costs related to, they're called significant claims. We are self-insured, part of this group that buys insurance altogether. Usually when you're self-insured, you get better rates. Over the past decade, we've been around 5%, which beats the average. But when you do get big claims, you have to take on those big claims, right? So that's why you see it goes from 7.5 to 12.5. That reduces the amount of money you'll have for your revenue. The other is the overlay. It hadn't been in previous models the town is using. It should be in there. Overlay covers situations in which the town expected to get taxes and then couldn't get taxes. It's a reserve, essentially. Staying in that shared revenue area, that's the stuff that gets backed out of your total revenue, we have some positive news. So we've decreased the amount that's set aside for non-excluded debt. Essentially what happens is when a town needs to buy something big and not do an exclusion, they take out like a car note, and that's the case that we have here. So we had a vehicle that had like a car note on it. We're going to pay the car note early using some free cash, which means we don't have to budget for that anymore, which is great. That saves you for this year and for next year. That's a win. The other that's a win there is the Old Colony assessment. So the Old Colony assessment was actually brought down, decreased, which gives you more money in your operating budget, to sort of acknowledge a decrease in enrollment that Carver's had in Old Colony. Saves you about $275,000 in shared costs for 25, which is great. I do want to flag that will probably rebound in 26. You're at a low point right now in terms of total enrollment, and that usually levels out. Those things go up and down. You should expect that to improve in 26. So great savings for 25. That'll probably be a higher cost in 26. This one's a little dense. I have 2 slides on it. I'm sorry in advance for having 2 slides on one thing. Second to the bottom is called pilots. Again, I know some people know a ton about this. Others may not know so much, so I appreciate your grace in advance to sort of start at square one. Pilots is short for payments in lieu of taxes. Essentially, what happens when you have some of these big assets, like a solar field, which is the one that Carver has quite a bit of right now, it's in the best interest of the community and in the group who owns the big asset to spread out the tax evenly over a big period of time, rather than getting a bunch of tax all at once, which means a big bill for that group, and then having to depreciate. Spreading that out gives even tax costs for the owners and even tax revenue for the town. That's pilots. It's a 10,000-foot view of it, right? At the end of the term, pilots can be renewed. Sometimes they're not renewed. Sometimes they're rolled into the levy. But the initial pilot can be, in this case, 20 years, let's say. Carver in 24 and going into 25 had a placeholder to take some of that revenue out, that pilot revenue out of the budget, the services budget ultimately, and put it aside for some reserves. There's a bunch of different reserves, one of which that's relevant to you was reserved for a new or renovated middle high school, right? It was about $225,000. In the budget we looked at last month, that was $225,000 coming out of the money you can use to pay for all the services in town, which is a big chunk of money coming out of a very small budget anyway. The interim finance director came up with I think, a brilliant model. Kudos to Mr. Samia for that. He essentially said, rather than taking out that whole amount, why don't we split it? Put some in reserve, which is a great idea. So put some money aside for doing, a feasibility study, which you'll definitely need. Your building's getting older. But don't take so much out that it sort of cripples the services you can otherwise provide. So it sort of splits the difference there. Doing that model takes you from pulling out 225 to about 75. Still put some aside, savings for the rainy day, for the feasibility, but don't take so much out that you ultimately harm some of your ability to do services. All that said, the town has about $35.36 million available after you take out all of those shared costs, right? The school department's projected to receive about $24.2 million roughly. That's an increase of a better part of $300,000 from our conversation in February. Overall, it's great news. I know that's super dense, so I apologize, but I want to stop there. Pepper me with questions if you have any on this so far.
Anyone have any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
I appreciate the breakdown.
I hope it's not too much. I'm sorry. I feel like
No, it's great.
dense.
It's
Okay.
great.
The only thing I'd like to add in is, obviously, all of these things that are in the presentation this evening are things that need to be supported at town meeting.
Correct.
So, we'll go into more detail about that as we get closer to town meeting.
Yep.
But, this is a plan that's been developed through the work of Ron and George Samia, the interim town finance director, and we'll be working with the new finance director and the former town administrator and the new interim town administrator. But eventually, this needs to be supported by the boards and by the community at town meeting if we're going to go forward and be able to have this positive news happen.
Yeah, come to fruition for sure.
Right.
So changing gears then from revenue, we'll talk a little bit about how we're using that revenue to balance your budget. Yeah. So what you're seeing on the right now is just your budget. You have FY24's budget, FY25's budget. That very first line, that's your total operating cost. That's how much it costs to pay all your teachers and buy pencils and copiers and you name it, all in cost to operate your school department. As I mentioned at the outset, that was about 7.7% increase from the previous year, driven predominantly by special education tuitions there. We've talked about reductions in force. The good news is you have fewer reductions in force in order to balance your budget. It's not down to zero. As I mentioned early on in this process, it'd be very unlikely to get you to zero, just given the scale that you're at, but it brings you from 6 down to 2. So what you see here in the operating budget, as I mentioned before, the TVI is now reassigned, incorporated into the budget versus the RIF line. You have your special education FTE and reading positions incorporated back into the budget. Middle high school gym position also incorporated back into the budget. So your RIFs go down from 6 to 2, all in. That still reduces your cost by about $150,000, and that brings you from that 7.7% increase down to 7, and that balances against your new revenues. The two positions that remain as reductions in force, 1 FTE in kindergarten, 1 FTE adjustment. No major changes in that next bucket, which is your other revenues. The grants that we plan to write remain to be the same. No major changes on that end of things. This plan does require you to use the better part of $400,000 in one-time money, which again, as I mentioned, lets you balance your FY25 budget, but is ideally not the best financial solution long-term. You'll want to get that down to close to 0. This is just your high-level summary. I've covered it already for you. The top thing there is just your expenses. The middle is all your revenues. You balance it out. You have a balance of 0 right now, 7% increase in expenses, 7% increase in revenue. If no other changes occur between now and when a town meeting occurs, this budget can be balanced. For your next steps, as Mr. Neef mentioned, the budget does reflect the town administration's financial planning. It does require support from the community to make it happen ultimately. We'll continue to work closely with them. We've been doing that, for the past years, a couple of years now. We anticipate insurance to be finalized in the next few weeks. That may or may not change. I don't anticipate a major change, but it's entirely possible that it might. And the same is true on the state legislature. Right now, we're working only off the governor's budget, and it's possible the legislature comes to the rescue. I don't anticipate that being the case given the financial projections, but they haven't produced anything yet in Beacon Hill, so we're still waiting on those things. I think that covers it. Did I miss anything, Mr. Neef?
It's everything except just going forward, our plan would be, we'd actually do the official public hearing of the budget at our next meeting on April 29th.
Okay.
And then the school committee can make a decision on whether they want to vote a budget that night or not.
Okay.
Or we could defer it to the May 20th meeting. Right now, I don't see us, based on where we are and based on how things have trended, I don't feel like we need to add a meeting in between there. But, certainly on April 29th, we could make a different decision.
Right.
So we'll kind of see where we are in 3 weeks or 4 weeks on April 29th.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely have the public hearing of the budget, and then we'll make a decision whether we're going to make a recommendation that you vote the budget that evening or that you wait until the May 20th meeting to vote the budget.
Okay.
And that's certainly a brighter picture than we were able to present in February.
Yeah, much brighter.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, I know there's been hours and hours and many, many meetings behind the scenes put into this. I appreciate all of your efforts. I appreciate your transparency. I love the detail that you put up because, like you said, everyone has a different knowledge base when talking about the budget. So I greatly appreciate it. I'm sure members of the community do too. So quickly, June 4th, town meeting. Please, please show up. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Is next budget transfers? I don't have my
Nope,
agenda.
culinary,
Not? Okay,
culinary
culinary
project
update.
update.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was trying to flip, but I didn't hit the right button. So, more exciting news.
Yes. So this will be our second to last culinary project update. Hopefully on April, I'll show you pictures of kids in the room.
Yeah.
If not April 29th, definitely on May 20th. You know, so the actual anticipated substantial completion date is this Thursday. So the goal is that we'll be, and then we have to do what's called a punch list. We're actually going through and meeting with the team tomorrow. We'll go through the space. We'll identify things that need to get cleaned up. We'll identify some small things that need to be adjusted. So we'll be creating that punch list. And then after substantial completion on Thursday, they'll begin working on that punch list. And we have to have several inspections from the town, from the health department to plumbing to electrical. So they'll be scheduling all those final inspections over the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
And our goal is to have students in the space that Monday after April vacation. If it doesn't happen that week, it will happen shortly after. You know, we're really at the 97% done stage of this project. So we're excited about that. So I have a couple pictures to show you. That was one. And these pictures were all taken this morning of the space. So certainly it looks like a culinary classroom.
Yeah.
It's starting to look that way. It's almost
Looks amazing.
It's almost a completed project. One more. Just a different angle, similar view, but we're not waiting on anything. All the equipment is in, everything's here. The majority of the work is done. As I said, we're going to have a good meeting tomorrow and go through the entire space with the team. So we're just excited about where we stand on the project and looking forward to having kids in the room.
So great.
Excellent. Are there plans to do like a ribbon cutting?
Yeah, we
the
have.
first day?
I don't have any information on doing some sort of ceremony to open the space, but we will definitely plan something for it. It probably may not be the first day the kids are in there.
Yeah.
We'll probably do something that's public facing that gives them the opportunity to show off some of the skills and use that space before the end of the school year.
Well, if they're going to cook for us, we're there.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. It's so amazing. Again, another incredible project for our students that's supported by our community. Like so incredibly grateful.
Absolutely.
I mean, how many years has Chef been waiting for this?
So this is a project that we've been talking about and trying to, and the community's actually been supporting through some capital items since 2018. You know, so we're really it's 5 or 6 years we've been talking about getting this project done and securing the funding to get the project done. And we've finally been able to do that. So we're excited about that.
It's amazing. Kudos, right? I know.
It's exciting.
So exciting. Can't wait to see the students in there. Okay, so that brings us to upcoming events.
There's a lot of upcoming
Which
events.
I'm sure is going to
So
be very
I'm
long.
just going to throw it up on the screen. It's a big list. I think May is 2 pages. Because we're getting into that time of year where there's a lot of things going on in the district, as there always is.
Yep.
So as always, I'll highlight a couple. The elementary school PTO is sponsoring the Harlem Wizards game on Wednesday night, 6:30. So the entire community is invited to that. The Harlem Wizards will actually be in school on Wednesday to do some interactions with our students. They'll be there with when the governor's there. So maybe they'll get to run into
Wednesday is
Oh,
very
that's like
busy.
perfect
Well,
timing because
and
basketball's our jam.
the governor was a college basketball player.
Yeah.
So maybe the governor will run into the Harlem Wizards at Carver Middle High School on Wednesday. So that could be exciting.
Wednesday's starting to look real fun.
Right?
I will say there is a lot of MCAS testing on here because the one thing about April and May, especially May at the middle high school, generally May in the middle high school, someone's taking a test somewhere.
It's great to see so many activities. Again,
Next Thursday, we are doing the Family Fun Night, which is an event we've done the last couple of years. So we're excited about that. We're going to have several student performances, followed by Family Bingo. The goal of that evening is supposed to just be a free, positive event for the community. So the community is invited, and we do some bingos and some giveaway after some wonderful student performances that represent the entire district. So we're going to have students performing from elementary through seniors in high school. So we're excited about that.
Very exciting.
We do have our NEAS visit coming up. So the NEAS decennial visit is that last week in April. And we'll have to talk about that a little bit because they'll want to, there will be a meeting with the school committee on April 29th. So we'll talk about what the logistics of that will look like. But that is part of the presentation. So we're excited to have NEAS here with us for 3 days coming up at the end of April. And I said that was just April. We get into May, it's literally 2 pages. Because once we get into May, we're starting to talk about the prom and Teacher Appreciation Week and all these exciting things that are happening throughout the district, including already getting into concerts. And so we're really looking forward to that. So, like I said, I'm not going to read every event up here, but always give an opportunity to have the community take a look at it, put it up on the screen. And we're already starting again the senior class day,
I was looking at that.
convocation at the end of May.
Yeah, that's early.
Graduate, June's not here, but June graduation is that first Sunday in June.
Okay.
So June
June 2nd.
2nd or June 2nd?
June 2nd.
But what the Sunday is, whatever Sunday
I'm
is.
sure
the
Corinne
first
can tell
Sunday.
us how many days it is until June 2nd, or any other senior that might be in the room with us.
So a lot of great things happen in the district, and as always, we invite the community to come and join us in all these wonderful events.
That is excellent. Thank you for sharing that. It's so great to see so many amazing things.
And I'll just keep going on recommendations. We did
Yeah.
the memorandum of agreement with the custodial unit.
Yep.
Capital plan update. And Ron and I didn't talk about who's going to talk about this, but I'll start, and then Ron can add it if you'd like to.
Okay.
So, at this time, it's our understanding, to date, the capital committee is still pending exactly how much money they're going to have. But the general sense is that the committee may not have as much money as been requested from all the town departments. So we're feeling we're going to be going before the capital committee. That date hasn't been set yet, but sometime in the next few weeks, we'll be meeting with the capital committee. They're meeting with all of the town departments. And I think there's going to be a general theme of, if you had the ability to, if you had to prioritize your list, what things would you remove from your list?
Yep.
Okay. So we did a full capital presentation all the way back in December, I believe.
Yep.
And so Ron and I have gotten together with the administrative team. We have these recommendations in this order of what things we would remove from our list, but certainly if we needed to. So obviously, if we go through the process and capital meets and there's either there's more money than anticipated, or there's an opportunity based on other projects in the community to keep everything, we'll keep everything. But there is a reality piece of, we're looking for some guidance from the school committee when we go before the capital outlay committee, that if we do have to pull back and remove 1 or 2 items from our list, what items should we remove? So this is our recommendation, but it's certainly open to the committee if you'd like us to reprioritize. So Ron, I don't know if that's anything on the summary? Good summary? Okay. So the first one is the middle high school concession project. Here our advocacy is just not to remove it, but just to reduce the cost. So we're in partnership right now with Old Colony, and we're working with Old Colony to build our concession stand, which is going to reduce the cost of building that facility. So we're in the design phase right now. So we have a team of administrators and some members of the boosters, some members of some youth organizations who would be utilizing and accessing the concession stand, working with students from Old Colony and their teachers on a design. And then once we finalize the design, we'll move forward in terms of the project. Old Colony is anticipated that they would be able to build it next school year. Obviously using Old Colony, the negative of that is they won't be able to build it over the summer. They don't have the access to the students over the summer. So certainly if we were going in a different way, we could possibly have the concession stand in place for the fall. But we want to be real clear to the community that under this plan, under this partnership with Old Colony, we would not be able to have a concession stand in place for the fall season. But the goal would be that construction would happen and it would be absolutely ready for the next fall, some point next school year. They haven't put us on their schedule, but they've made a commitment that they would build it during the next school year is when the facility would be built, if this is approved by capital outlay. And just because we're going through Old Colony, our anticipated cost is just lower. So we're changing our estimate. So, and honestly, I think that's a concession we can make no matter what. So we can say to them, yeah, that's an easy one. The second one might be a surprise to the committee, but we would actually recommend removing one of our requests for a 71 passenger bus. And I am going to let Ron talk about this a little more just because he works on a day-to-day basis more directly with getting in new buses. But we actually have two new buses that we ordered in the past that are just coming online. They're gonna either have come in or just coming in. So we actually feel like we're in a position that if there was a year to forego a bus, this would be the year. But I'll let Ron, I don't know if I covered it all.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We reduced one route anyway this year, and for a variety of reasons, manufacturing buses has just been incredibly long. So we've ordered buses that are 18, 19 months in the making that have now just arrived, and we are going back and forth with manufacturers, similar like the punch list items they got to like tweak. But the point is, those buses that should have been here 2 years ago are now just coming onto the fleet. So between that and having the reduced route, if there were ever a time to hold off on a new vehicle, this would be it. Without any major influence on the fleet.
So our third option is we had a proposal to remove the berm out behind the elementary school, and then take that berm out. I think the committee knows what's on with the berm, and replace that with swing sets, and install new swing sets in the back. And then our fourth one was to move back the Carver Middle High School library project. I will say that that's a project that we've moved back several times, so I feel like that's a project that's always getting kind of kicked back. The library definitely is in need of an upgrade and a facelift. So that's why we have that as fourth on the list. I know that, so that would reduce our request by $310,000. And just as a point of comparison, we have the entire we have the entire list here of what we originally requested. So our original request was, you have the updated request. So I have the number, wait a sec. It's in my notes, just give me a second. You got it? I have it in my notes. Our original request was $716,660. So our original list was $716,660. If we dropped all of these items, that would bring our request down to $310,000. Reduce our request by $310,000. So our new request would be $401,660. I would be surprised if we had to reduce all of these things, but we want to be able to go into the meeting prepared to make those adjustments if we need to. So at this time, I guess we'd open it up to questions from the committee, and certainly we're open to the committee's input on our priority list in terms of making some adjustments if we need to.
This is a tough one.
I was mulling it over for a while.
Yeah.
I really like the project that we have for the berm. I really don't want to see that going one more year, but
Honestly, though, the library hasn't been updated since I went to high school there in 1989. And it seems like it's been pushed off since 1989.
I mean, like sitting on the chairs and in that meeting that we're in, it's like one woman was like, "Oh man, I picked a different seat and I ended up with the same broken chair."
Well, the cushions are gone in the chairs. If this were me and it was my decision, I would be moving the library up to number 2.
To reduce.
So bottom.
So this list is the
cut list.
What would come off.
Yeah.
So this
from the top
is the
down.
priority of what would come off. So the
one would
bill off first, 2 would come off second. Maybe I was unclear about that.
All right.
3 would come off
So I
third.
would say what I would want, number 1 and 2 would be the bus and the berm.
To come off first.
First.
Yeah.
Well, because that's interesting. We want to. The concession stand's not coming off, we're just reducing the
I know,
cost.
but-
Yeah.
We're gonna be able to do it for the, we are
I know.
confident we'll be able to do it for 65,000.
Well, Colony is a little bit on the slower side, but they're less expensive.
Yeah,
That's the
that's
trick.
fine.
Right.
Yeah.
And
We
it,
need
it
it.
will be open for football.
Not for
The year after.
The following year for
Okay.
If Old Colony builds it, they'll build it next year.
Yeah.
Got
But
it.
I think that's a great community project, because we do have so many students that go to O Colony, so I think that'll be a great way to
I mean, I'm hoping
make that connection
that if
there.
if we drop the bus and the concession stand, that's $145,000. Hopefully that gets us there.
Enough, right. so we
Hopefully
don't
those
touch
two
any
get
of
us
it.
there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we don't have to touch anything else.
Hopefully.
I mean, the berm's only 50,000 as opposed to the library being 120. I'd like to keep the library, but it's 120 as opposed to 50.
Have you been in the library lately?
Yes.
I know, so.
I mean,
so-
literally, it's the same chair since I went to high school there.
Right.
Almost
And there
35
are
years
there
ago.
are other like recess equipment available to the kids
There is, but not
for
yet.
now.
It would be nice. It would be nice if neither one of them had to be pushed off, but I think
So-
everyone knows my feelings
but
on
I
the
would
library.
I don't know, Ron, do you want to quickly go through what's staying on the list
Yes.
too?
Okay, the
Just as a
van.
reminder. So these are the things we didn't
Right,
consider.
right.
So we just gave you a list of, these are the things here's the things that we'd like to see stay on the list either way.
Sure. So the first is classroom modernization. We've been doing this now for the past couple of years at middle high school. That's just our investment in upgrading the stuff inside the classes,
Yeah.
right? Building's got good bones, leave it be. It's going to be a while since you get either a major renovation or a new facility. So over the next several years, we should invest in the stuff inside classes. We're doing it department by department. The next is the parking lot repairs, middle high school. We punted on that one last year due to shortness in funding. We really need to get to the parking lot. Full disclosure, that does not repair your whole parking lot. That is small sections of the parking lot, and we have our O&M team sort of prioritize that for us, right? If you,
We talked about that a little bit, and we talked to Dave about that, and just felt like that's something that just needs to happen.
Yep.
And we can't.
It does, yeah.
Because you can think, parking lot repairs, we can slide that down the list, but you just can't keep sliding parking lot repairs down the
No.
list.
right, if you don't
only gonna
repair
get
some of it, it
worse.
gets worse, exactly.
gonna
It
get
starts to
worse.
get worse, yeah. It's an investment there. On transportation, we talked about dropping the bus. The one thing we desperately need is a wheelchair van. As we talked about our costs rising for out-of-district kiddos, our transportation costs have risen as well. Honestly, you could get 2 wheelchair vans, and that would we'd still be needing more vehicles to transport
Right.
students. And on technology, firewall replacement, we have to have that. It's a top priority. In educational technology for both the buildings, same idea, coming to end of life.
Yep.
Once they get to end of life, they're no longer functional. So those 3 on technology feel like top priorities.
And for the middle high school, as a reminder, the technology was beginning to replace teacher laptops.
Yep.
And the elementary school is actually starting the process of replacing the LCD projector. No LCD
The
projectors.
projectors, okay.
We still have $100,000 for Chromebooks offset by a federal grant, but that's the end of that.
That's the last
year
one.
of that.
Okay.
So we have one last year of $100,000 for Chromebooks that's being paid for out of federal grant funds.
Okay,
We won a grant for $300,000 going on 3 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that will be something that we'll have to talk about coming
Yeah.
back in the future,
Yep.
but not on the current list. So those are the things we kept, and then we're saying these are the ones that are up for discussion to come off with, again, just a reminder, the concession stand would be the first thing we take off. Well, we're not taking the concession stand off, we're just reducing the price.
Reducing it.
Just reducing it,
Just
that's fine,
reducing the
that's
price.
fine.
It doesn't
No,
even
I'm good.
reduce the scope of the
The project.
I know,
yeah.
that's
It's
good.
just
Yeah.
you're going to get a product for less cost.
Right.
It'll take you a little bit longer.
And then the bus, and based on Ron's recommendation, Transportation Ron's recommendation, I think it's unusual, but this is a year we could
Yep.
Do it.
do that. And hopefully we just have to just stop there.
Yes.
Uh,
That would
And
be
then I
nice.
do think there's some,
I hope so.
back and forth on the berm versus the library
Right.
Yep.
amongst the group.
Depending how much more we have to.
Yeah,
Yeah, what the number is.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, so, we're just looking for the committee to kind of vote this priority list, and the book also giving us the discretion to, when we go before capital outlay, like I said, if it makes sense that the library has to move up and the berm has to come down just on what they need,
Yep.
we take that into consideration.
Right.
Oh, sorry, pulled away from it.
Will we have an opportunity to vote a final number?
Generally not.
Not, right?
Um,
Because I'm just thinking if, you know, say we have $100,000, right? When we get to number 3. So we could do the berm and then, I don't know, 50 towards the library. Is there a breakdown of what the 120 for the library consists
Not,
of?
we're still in the design process of that.
Okay.
But we don't have like a formalized quote of,
Okay.
this is, you know, here's the breakdown of how we're gonna spend $120,000. So we've been working with some outside design companies who've been
Okay.
coming in and looking at, you could redesign the space this way, and you could purchase these
Yep.
chairs and tables, and so we haven't gone past that step
Okay.
of, okay, we're gonna spend, you know, $25,000 on all new tables.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I thought I would ask in case we have a little bit of wiggle room there. Maybe we could do that like in phases. Don't want to have to do that, but maybe we could. I mean, worst comes to worst, I'll buy the fabric, I'll buy the foam, and we will just have a chair recovering project, which I know happens, like, I know it's already happened once before.
It did happen one time. So there are a couple that have the original fabric on them. Some of them were redone under actually Superintendent Patty Grenier. So back probably 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
It's probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Can we say the
Right.
same with the berm removal too? Is there a way that we can get that number down to lower than 50?
No, I don't think that one. Yeah, I think that.
That's too
Yeah, I figured that would be all in
Right,
it.
to clear that land,
Just to clear
then the swing sets are fairly expensive, so to purchase, install, and then also having the appropriate, you know, safety feature down. Yeah, to go down under the swing set.
Are we gonna do the, what's it called? What that flexible ground, what's it called? That like our playground has, like the.
No,
the rubberized.
The
No,
rubberized, yeah.
No, that's even more expensive.
Okay.
Just one more caveat on the berm project.
Yep.
It was originally slated to be in 2 phases.
Okay.
One would be to sort of flatten that area, extend that wood chip area we have
Yep.
to a flattened area up to the
Yep.
swale. And the second phase would be to bring in swing sets. So the
Okay.
proposed here, if we needed to, would just be to put the whole thing together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the
Yeah.
leveling the area and installing the swings
Yeah.
in a single year rather than breaking it to.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to have the kids out there running around playing and just a pile of, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're potentially being, so that would make sense. Maybe we can get some materials donated, maybe some people in the community will donate time to move some earth, who knows? But anyway,
Good thinking though.
yeah. Because, I don't know, we'll see. Fingers crossed, there's been positive movement with the budget, so let's just hope that
Right.
that continues. Whenever that meeting is scheduled for capital, when you're presenting, can you please let me know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll let you know because we're gonna meet next week and then on Monday, and then I'm gonna figure out in the next week or two when they're gonna meet.
Okay, that would be great. If I can attend, I'd like to. I usually do. I'm not sure. I might not be available this year, but I appreciate the information. I really don't want to vote this yet, but what does everyone think? What does everyone feel? Does everyone
Ultimately,
support this plan?
You don't have to vote this. We're looking for
Some guidance?
We're looking for some guidance, and ultimately, I feel, the thought process is obviously by, if we have to make a
Yes.
if we have to make a decision that night at the meeting.
Yep.
If we have to make a decision that night at the meeting, we'd like to have
Yep.
some direction from the
Something,
committee.
Yep.
I mean, just think about how, when that group came and the kids were embarrassed last year by the
Yeah,
library.
exactly. I will never forget it. I will never forget it. So that's been burned in my brain for a couple of
And
years
I
now.
do believe recess is very important.
Yep.
But I think education trumps the.
I agree.
I mean, in our library at the middle high school gets so much use. The kids are there for so many different reasons. VHS students are in there. I mean, classrooms go in there. I mean, it's such a hub of that building, I think, but it's been on
Hopefully
my,
it's not gonna even be an issue.
hopefully, yes, hopefully not.
Okay.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, and certainly if there's drastic changes, then we'll try to hold off.
Let us know.
and Let you know, and, bring it back to the April 29th meeting.
Okay.
Want a motion? All right. I move that we approve the financial report as, sorry, wrong one. I move that we approve the prioritized capital plan as presented this evening.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that brings us to Ron yet again.
Yep.
Financial update, budget transfers.
Quick financial update, and we'll do the transfers as well. At Washington, we had some movement on balancing the budget there. 1.2 trillion spending bill was passed, which is great. Keeps the federal government operating. A couple of items there that are important to education in particular. One, investments in child care development block grants, which is sort of a lead thread into expanding preschool child care across the nation. And similarly, continued support and funding for Head Start. So those are two highlights from that. I've got links to all the legislation if you want to, if you're having trouble sleeping at night, you can dig through that.
Thank you.
Beacon Hill, lots of movement there as well. DOR reported its February tax collections. $2 billion came in, which sounds like a lot, but even that is short of the target by the better part of $10 million. We're looking at like 8 or 9 months in a row of lagging revenues at the state level. You combine that with some of the 9C cuts that we've seen, and again, that sort of signals to me that in the tea leaves, there's going to be some shift in collapsing, reducing, restructuring total state budgets. Yeah. Interesting one second bullet there from Beacon Hill. So Center of Health Information and Analysis recently released a report. I have a link there for you. Sort of outlined health costs, healthcare costs in all Massachusetts. It uses data up through 22, but the big takeaways is that it continues to show a really dramatic rise in healthcare costs and insurance for healthcare costs in Massachusetts. They're planning to do a follow-up analysis as well. We plan to keep an eye out for that, especially on the heels of seeing our healthcare costs increase here in the town. Lastly, the State Senate released the Early Ed Act. You've got a link for it there. It's essentially $1.5 billion to continue to expand child care eligibility, so it reduces some of the thresholds that families need to hit in order to get some state aid for child care. All of that in the thread, again, of trying to expand early education opportunities for all kids in the Commonwealth. Before we get to warrants on your grant awards, we just had one grant award to Carver. It's the Comprehensive School Health Services grants, $35,000. About $15,000 of that will offset the unbudgeted nurse position, which I'll get to in transfers.
Excellent.
Good.
You've got your fourth quarter warrants there, down to the penny as always, and we'll hop into the transfers.
Transfers are not linked in there.
Sorry about that. In the agenda? Scroll up. I don't know. Maybe in the background? Budget transfers. Sorry.
I can pull up, I can get it, just give me a second.
Just to make that little.
I'm gonna pull up.
So as we're pulling it up, I'll give you some highlights and you can kind of dig into it. First tab, as always, you've got your budget through the fourth quarter, April 1st. The big items on the fourth quarter transfers are just addressing some of the continued liabilities you have in the books. So as we talked about all of FY24, we have liabilities right now for special education tuitions and then transportation predominantly that we've just been rolling sort of month after month there. Now that we go into fourth quarter, we're starting to look at the end of the fiscal year. We're starting to think about closing out the books. So what you see are a couple of key transfers. The very first one on the top closes out your costs for special education out of district transportation. That doesn't mean you won't incur more of them between now and the end of the year, but that closes out your liability for that. We also use some reserve funds to offset some of that special education tuition. I want to flag for you, you've got the better part of $300,000 though still as a liability on your books right now. We anticipate that you'll get a combination of funding to close that gap. The first part is going to be extraordinary relief. That's like that extra circuit breaker money for districts who are in a spot like ours that we file with the state. We don't have an exact number of dollars that we've been approved for yet. That happens in middle of May, so we'll know what that number is. And then the balance of it will go to the town's special education reserve designed for exactly these sorts of costs. Yeah.
Is it higher than last year or no? Is it different for you guys, circuit breaker than?
This will be a little bit different. So we've never in past couple of years gone to extraordinary relief. We always get circuit breaker. Circuit breaker increases typically year after year. Extraordinary relief is if you get more than a 25% increase in these costs, which we hit this year, you can ask the state for some extra money. They keep money aside for just this kind of a thing. But what they do is they take the bucket and distribute it to everybody who asked. So we're not exactly sure how much we're going to get because it depends on how many people ask for it.
And in terms of the sped reserve, which was developed by the town back 8-9 years ago.
Yeah.
We actually haven't used the sped reserve before. So it currently has a little over $500,000 in it. But we are going to have to use it this year. And obviously we've been kind of, throughout the year, we've been kind of talking about our special ed costs and how large the increase has been. And that's why these things exist. That's why the sped reserve exists, so that we can tap into that if we need to in an unusual year, or extraordinary relief, same thing.
Yep.
And that's why, so it's called extraordinary relief, because if you get into a tough situation, you're able to access that money.
And they're both one time. They're both just for that year, and then you build it into your operating budget sort of going forward, you know? Last two, if I can, you've got the middle high school nurse. That's that unbudgeted position. We split the cost between reserves and that grant to cover the cost there. And then you had some rooftop units at CES that broke, which is atypical. It's a relatively new building, but they are broken and need to be repaired. So we had reserve funds to be able to offset the cost of that. We have we have an extraordinary maintenance fund that's in your local budget that we leaned on for that.
Okay.
All in, you've got net zero transfers, again, still waiting on that $300,000 liability for special education. I'll answer any questions you might have.
No, thank you for going after the extraordinary relief funding. Yes. It's,
Kudos to Special Education Director Leary. She did the yeoman's work on that.
Yeah, thank you. Very grateful for that, and very grateful again for the community for having the foresight to set up that sped reserve fund. I know there are a lot of other communities that do not have one, that wish they did, that are pushing now to try to establish one. And
absolutely,
it's not an easy thing to accomplish. So we're very fortunate to have such great community support. Thank you for all of that information, as always.
Okay. We need a motion?
Yes.
I move that we approve the financial report as presented this evening, including the acceptance of the warrant and the budget transfers. Excuse me.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Reed's Board of Director appointment. This is an easy one.
Didn't we just do this?
It seems like we do it every year. As a member of the Reed's Collaborative, the school committee asked to appoint someone to serve on the board of directors. Historically, the superintendent has served in that role. I would be glad to continue my role as on the Reed's board, and would entertain a motion to that extent if you want to have me be the school committee's representative on the Reed's Board of Directors.
Of course. I move that we appoint Scott Neef, Superintendent of the Carver Public Schools, as the school committee's representative on the Reed's Board of Directors.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Scott, for serving again. We appreciate it.
Glad to do it.
Ooh, and that brings us to the 2024.
So this very interesting next year is a very interesting school year. Okay, so
We were talking. I was talking to our director. I was like,
next year,
you looked at the schedule, the calendar for next year.
It's horrific.
The 2024-25 school year is a bit unusual for these reasons. Labor Day is September 2nd. Christmas falls on a Wednesday. Good Friday is the Friday before April vacation, and it's an election year.
Yeah.
All
the students are going to be super excited as we talk about this.
All lit up.
Right? You're gonna listen now.
And
you get to almost 2 weeks of Christmas.
Right?
Mrs. Russell and I went back to find a calendar, because we actually have all the calendars back to, I think, 93. Since we've deregionalized.
Wow.
We have a little file of them all, and we tried to find a year that matched this year, and one did not exist. So there was not a year that had all of these things. So it made it a little challenging in terms of developing the calendar.
Yeah.
What I did do is I created 3 options, and I presented 3 options to the faculty.
Yep.
This was the option that the faculty voted, so 60% of the faculty voted for this option. 30 voted for a second option, which if you wanted me to, I could go into.
Nope.
And 10% voted for a third option. So this had this had majority,
Just
and there were,
yeah.
I wanted you to know there were two other options, so the vote ended up being 60, 30, 10. So
Okay.
60% of the staff supported this option. So what this option has is teachers would start on August 26th. Students would start on Wednesday, August 28th. When we'd have the 4-day weekend for Labor Day like we always do, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. There would be a full PD day on Election Day because it's a presidential election year, so November 5th. And then the thing I think this was the thing that some people were excited about and some people were less excited about, is we do have a 2-week Christmas vacation in this one. So the last day of school would be December 20th, and then we wouldn't return to school until January 6th. Then,
Somehow I think the students will muddle through that.
which actually
It's the
becomes,
parents.
And I see the parents
I know,
worried,
right?
and the students are thrilled. I was also very dismayed.
it becomes,
I'm concerned for the parents, but for the kids, it's great.
it almost becomes 16 days, it's 16 days.
Yeah.
With the weekends.
And hopefully there'll be some snow
Yeah, there'll be some
Yeah.
stuff.
during
I
those
need to
16 days.
Then,
16 days.
and then we put traditionally we have a half day prior to the April vacation.
Yep.
And so we kept that in this calendar, but Good Friday is the Friday before April
Yep.
vacation. So if you look at April,
Half day
we
on-
have a half day on Thursday, and then Good Friday, and then April vacation. And April vacation is late next year. This year, it's the earliest it can be.
Yep.
Because it's always, April vacation is always the third week in April in Massachusetts, because it aligns with Patriots' Day, which is always the third Monday in April. So this year, April 1st, today is a Monday, so April vacation begins April 15th. Next year, it begins as late as it can because April 1st is a Tuesday. So it would start on the 21st. So it's actually a late April vacation next year. I shouldn't say the concerning part of the calendar is, for me, I guess it's a concerning part for me, is the last day is Wednesday, June 18th, because we have these big breaks during the year.
Yeah.
So that puts us right up against June 19th if we have a snow day.
Yep.
So we'd have that June 19th holiday and have to come back on the 20th. And if you had 2 snow days, you get into that week of the 23rd, which people don't love being in school when we're in the 20s in June. No one loves being in school when it's that late.
For no snow.
Right? Yeah.
Let's get
So-
all of our
During those
snow
16
during that
days.
16
That's it.
days of Christmas.
But otherwise, it's pretty, besides all those things, it's pretty traditional. So the half days land where they generally wear in terms of parent-teacher conferences and those types of events. We did do, which we've historically done, we did a PD day. We did a PD day in December.
Yep.
Because the last few years, we've been aligning that with the 8th grade trip to New York.
Yes.
And we found that trip's been very successful to happen on a Thursday night and do the PD day on December 6th. This is obviously the recommendation. I'll take any questions you have.
What's the
And
last day of school this year?
it's early. Today, the last day is the 14th. It's the Friday.
Did we have to add a day?
We had
yeah,
one
we did.
snow day this year. So it was I have to pull a calendar up to tell you what day it is. It's the Friday, June 13th, June 14th? June 14th, Flag Day.
Right, yeah.
So it's, even with June 14th, it's gonna be a full 10 weeks
Yeah.
Yeah.
even with teachers returning or students, even with teachers returning on the 26th and students returning on the 28th, it's still a full 10-week summer vacation. For students, it's actually 10 weeks and 2 days.
Nice. Okay, so I immediately have one question.
Okay?
November 7th. That's an early release day?
Yes.
Is that just for the elementary school?
Yeah, no. So what
That's-
we've done here, so this created a lot of confusion this year.
Okay, yes.
Because historically, we used to do an early release day where the middle high school would have parent conferences and the elementary school would have school.
Yep.
And then the elementary school would have parent conferences and the middle high school would have school.
Yep.
And then we'd all have an early release day in December. And this year, we changed that this year, and it caused a lot of confusion for people.
Yep.
I believe it was marked appropriately on the calendar, but people just got used to, well, that's not how it happens. They just remembered this is how it's happened for the last 15 years, so I assume this is how it happens. And really, the administration didn't love having a half day in December. With the professional day in there, plus December's only 3 weeks of school anyhow, there was a concern about having a half day in December. So we said, we're doing these early release days for parent conferences anyhow, we'll just make them district-wide. November 7th is not a great day for an early release day, except for it aligns with the end of the first semester at the elementary school. And Principal Maestas really wants to have that half day right after the end of the first semester at the elementary school, so the parent conferences will have report cards.
Okay.
And that information. So that's why she wants it in November.
Okay.
It used to be that the middle high school would be like the 10th or the 17th. And the elementary school would be the 17th or the 24th. They want that full first semester to be done. It creates November to be a little ugly because you have election day on the 5th, half day on the 7th, and then Veterans Day on the 11th.
Parents are going to lose their minds over those 2 weeks.
No school November, sometimes it gets called. There's
what it
a lot
feels
of,
like.
a lot of breaks in November.
Well, to be fair, I'm going to Hawaii, so I don't care.
Yeah, so if you actually look at the months of November and December, there are not a lot of school days. I know that sounds crazy to say, but there are not a lot of school days in November and December.
Right, so I'm thinking, I don't know how they're getting 2 weeks off, but still technically maybe getting out on June 18th,
If we did not do the 2 weeks of Christmas, the last day of school we could develop a calendar where the last day of school could be June 13th. So they are getting out later than they usually do. So like this year, we're getting out that same.
We're either getting it in December or we're getting it in the back end of June.
Right.
So either way.
That was really the choice for the
6 of one,
teachers.
half dozen of another.
Is that they were going to either get out a little earlier in June or have 2 weeks in Christmas. And the teachers chose they'd rather have the 2 weeks of Christmas. I did not, I didn't put that survey out to the community. I do think if I put the 3 options out to the community, that they may have chosen a different option.
Yeah, oh, God.
What would Christmas break look like if we didn't do they would go to school
No,
Monday?
we would still, I've looked at past calendars. Whenever Christmas fallen on a Wednesday, we've never gone to school on the 23rd.
Right.
It would be on the back end. We go to school on the 2nd and the 3rd of January.
Okay, so it would
So,
just be
you know,
Thursday, Friday,
New Year's Day, but then you go that Thursday, Friday, the 2nd and 3rd. And we have done that in the past.
Yeah.
So there are calendars where we've done the 2 weeks of Christmas. There's years we haven't done the 2 weeks of Christmas and we only do this when Christmas falls on a Wednesday.
Yeah, we did that a few years ago.
Yeah. Even when it falls on a Thursday, we'll go like the Monday and Tuesday, or at least the Monday before.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when
is what it is, right?
I looked at it, it was that week in November. I was like, ooh,
No,
that's
there's only one full week.
that's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately, this early release day is based on the elementary school and when their
Yeah.
term ends, their first term ends.
Yeah.
And that's parent-teacher conferences too.
Yeah, parent-teacher conference.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
All right.
all right. Anyone have any additional questions about the 2024-2025 calendar, which I can't even believe I'm saying those dates.
I really hope that my school calendar lines up with.
Well, you should just bring it for show and tell,
Yeah, there you go, bring it in.
right?
Okay, I did all your work for you guys.
Are we ready?
Yep, we are ready.
I move to approve the 2024-2025 school calendar as presented.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Enjoy your 2 weeks off in December, everyone.
You're welcome.
I do see some smiles. out
Very
there. I
exciting.
see some.
June 18th, I think also look, no, June 18th.
I see some frowns on the parents' faces, with some smiles in the audience.
Well, let's just hope for like snow in those 2 weeks. Like it would just be
Oh yeah,
ideal.
getting snowed in with your kids for 2 weeks.
I
That's
know.
wonderful.
I'm going to be working, so.
Oh, I would
With my
welcome it, but-
child. It's already difficult
Phase
without
of
a
life.
2 weeks of Christmas generates a lot of feelings.
Yes.
Oh, it's
absolutely.
Also, I mean, because you have winter sports going on,
Yeah,
so
it's rough. It's rough.
if you're in indoor track or wrestling or basketball, you're coming to school every day anyhow, you might as well go to school.
I'm
But
sorry.
Right? Okay, so that brings us to field trips.
Field trips.
Okay.
That's,
Oh, this is an easy one.
yes,
Yeah, we didn't,
should be. I agree.
yeah, 2 field trips, 6th grade trip to Camp Burgess. So 2 traditional trips. Camp Burgess next year for the 6th graders in the fall. And then, the Europe trip, we're always almost 2 years in advance.
Yep.
It just gives families the opportunity for us to sell the trip, for them to set up payment plans, because that trip is expensive.
Yes, it is.
So it gives families about 18 months to save and pay for that trip over time, which is certainly something that helps people be able to attend. So we started this a few years ago, where we were approving trips 2 years in advance to give families that opportunity to save for and sign up and do a payment plan to pay for the trip over time, which has increased our numbers. We've had good numbers on the Euro trip the last few years. So we just need a motion and a vote to approve. I know there's not one in the back.
That's all right. I move that we approve the field trips as presented this evening.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Enjoy your field trips. Okay, so that brings us to reports from the school committee. Anyone?
I just want to say, Colleen, it's been such a pleasure getting to work with you on the school committee and do great things in your new position.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to second that. Thank you to Colleen for her service for the past few years. We know that that was a difficult few years too during the pandemic, and those were not easy meetings, so we appreciate you. And thank you to our student ambassadors and our captain's council and to all of our all-stars and our presidential scholar who came this evening and got recognized. I know it's not easy getting up in front of this group of people and just kind of speaking, so I appreciate that. And I apologize for the school calendar, but here we are. I will be there in solidarity with all of you. Yeah, and looking forward to April vacation. So, and teachers, thank you for everything you've been doing this whole year, and enjoy your vacation.
I also want to say thank you for just being you. Thank you. Yeah, and it was an honor working with you this year. I'm glad that you have a new job and you do well with them.
Right. Anything else you want to say?
Oh, no.
Nothing to add?
Nothing to add.
You did such a great job, Colleen. Again, I just want to say thank you for your service. You will be missed, but I know that we will see you around.
Yes.
So I wish you the best with your new job. I hope it's everything you want and more.
Indeed.
So to everyone out there, have a great April vacation. And to people in the community, please come to the events on the calendar. It's jam-packed. We appreciate the support of the community. We appreciate, and I know our student athletes and our students in drama and music, they appreciate it when they see full seats. So we appreciate your continued support. And thank you. Thank you, everyone that works so hard every day on behalf of our students. You're greatly appreciated. So I know that you may not always hear praise, but it's there. So thank you for all that you do. So with that, unless anyone has anything to add, I would, actually, we need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Not to return to public
open
session.
I move that we move to adjourn the open session of the Monday, April 1st, Carver School Committee, to move into executive session, not to return to open session.
I second.
We do have to
You need to state the reason.
Have to state the purpose for the executive session.
To move to executive session for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to collective bargaining for the bus drivers.
I second.
Okay, this is a roll call vote.
Jackie Lake, aye.
Kelly Nemi, aye.
Katie Sullivan, aye.
Colleen Zanuski, aye.
Stephanie Clarity, aye. Okay, so 9:02 p.m., the open session of the Carver School Committee on April 1st, 2024 has come to an end. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.